decided to give my brain a break and watch something totally silly, which was Totally Killer, released October 6th by director Nanasha Khan, starring Kiernan Shipka, Julie Bowen, and Lachlan Monroe. And Lachlan Monroe has sort of carved out a career for himself playing teen dad who you're never sure if he's good or bad. He's always like on the edge of suspicion. Whenever I see Lachlan, I know people around him are going to start dying, and we're going to have to look at him a little closely. In this film, Lachlan and Julie Bowen are a married couple who, when they were 16, three close friends of theirs, were killed by the Sweet 16 killer. The Sweet 16 killer attacked 16-year-old girls and murdered them by stabbing them 16 times. The killer was never caught. So, they go on to marry and have children, but always are looking over their shoulders for that killer. They have a 16-year-old daughter named Jamie. It's around Halloween right now, so they're more careful and cautious right now than normal. They're not helicopter parents, but they are concerned, and they're sort of reliving the trauma. Jamie, being 16, wants her independence. So on that evening, she goes out to a concert. And I'm not really giving anything away because this happens in the very beginning, and this is what sets up the structure of the film. Julie Bowen is home handing out candy for trick-or-treaters, and the Sweet 16 killer appears, and he kills her. So Jamie, in a Back to the Future nod, goes back in time to try to stop the killer during the initial murder sprees, so that her mother will still be alive. And they openly reference Back to the Future. It's not like they're trying to get away with anything. There's a lot of nods to that film. Totally Killer is a lot of fun. There are a lot of jokes about like how there was no security. She just walks into the high school and they put her in classes, and she asks for another student's schedule. She starts to say, I know that's a violation. They're like, here you go. Like, really, literally in the 80s, it was like that. It was a free for all. There's a joke about how bad the pot was back then, that it really didn't get you high. And it was all full of like sticks and twigs and things. So there's a lot of humor in the film. They do a good job of capturing 1987. Now, I was 15 for most of 87, not 16, but obviously I was at that target age. The sidebar will go into some minor complaints I have about how they represented us teens from 1987, but mostly they did a good job. There was a slight anachronistic moment where one of the actors had like a rook piercing. I think they probably forgot to remove it, or maybe they had to do a quick reshoot. And it was like she turned and the light glistened on the piercing. And I was like, oh no, we never did that in 1987. I mean, I have a rook piercing myself now, but that was the early aughts. That's when we did all of that, not 1987. So again, it was cute. It was fun. And the ending was actually tense and exciting, which I really didn't expect. I thought I was going to find it kind of corny and hokey, but I was into the ending of it. I really liked it. So if you want just a fun time, a silly goose time, Totally Killer is a good one. As someone who was 15 in 1987, for most of it, I did turn 16 at the tail end, I have some very nitpicky armchair quarterback observations to make about Totally Killer. Come at me. I know these are nitpicky. The first is the Mollies, based on a love of Molly Ringwald. Molly Ringwald was a blip in culture. Perhaps during the Breakfast Club, we might have been a little interested in her, but none of us wanted to dress like her. By 1987, she wasn't even on the radar at all anymore. If there were a brat packer that we were trying to emulate, I would guess that would be Demi Moore. A lot of the girls that I knew that would have been Mollies, you know what I mean, those basic girls that would have been Mollies, they might have tried to dress like Debbie Gibson, and they would have been the Debbies. So, I mean, the Debbies works. So that's what we would have had in 1987, not the Mollies. To add on to this discussion of clothing, a girl like Pam, who then handed down to Jamie the fringe leather jacket, the fringe leather jacket indicated that you were into hair bands. If you wore that jacket, you liked Bon Jovi, you liked Poison, you liked Motley Crue. That was your wheelhouse. Which leads me to my final point, and that no one played New Order at house parties. They always show these 80s parties, and it looked good. The big hair was still in, the stupid sweaters were still in. We dressed with this really over modesty where like everything was buttoned up and covered. So that looked good. But they always depict it with us playing this weird electronic music. That would have been more at home in a gay club than in a house party. We didn't play New Order. In 1987, Appetite for Destruction came out, and we played that out. We played that all of the remaining of 87. We played that 88. We played that 89 at every single party. Every time we were in a car, we had a tape, and we subbed that in a tape deck. Like that, the Gunners were the house party. Anything that was like sort of leaning toward emo, maybe we would have played The Cure or maybe REM, but even that for a house party, that wouldn't have happened. So that is my history lesson from 1987. Despite that, Totally Killer is totally fun.